Oh, he said it? He said it. Hi everyone, I'm going to react to My Hero Academia Season 6, Episode 4, Inheritance. And last episode, twice, confronted Hawks, and then, a fight ensued, and Hawks was about to kill him, and then Dabby showed up, but then, you know, he still died, protecting the others. So that's what happened last episode. And before we get into this one, if you guys have my reaction, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and please consider supporting my Patreon at patreon.com/Philomini. And now let's start this episode, and here we go. After the episode was over, I was sitting here like combing through the episodes again, because I feel like when a lot of stuff are happening in a particular episode, I can't quite keep up with everything because everything is happening like so fast, so it's hard for me to fully understand what's going on in the episode. So first off, the way the episode ended with Shigaraki saying don't reject me anymore, I was sort of like confused about who is he saying that to. Don't reject me anymore. I'm thinking, okay, is he telling that to his family? Like when he was making his way toward in the dream world or wherever, where he was, and he keeps seeing these images of his family and stuff, talking to him and all of that. And when he then All For One showed up, right, looking like Kurogiri, and then he was making his way toward him, and then his family sort of like showed up, and the father was trying to, I couldn't help but, the father was in front of him, right? He has his hand on his face, and then you had the other hands like all over his body. I feel like those represent, how we met, how in the beginning Shigaraki had all these hands on his face and everything. That was basically that. I feel like that represented which hands was where. It was the father's hands that was on his face, like that. And then you had the sister, the mother, even the grandma was there, Nana, which I feel like that shouldn't be possible, right? Nana's hands should not have been on him. She was not part of the people that he killed. So either way, they were trying to stop him basically from going to All For One. And as they were doing that, he said, don't reject me anymore, don't reject me anymore. And then he went into All For One, and then that's when the spark happened, and then he woke up. I was also confused about that spark thingy, so I didn't fully get it when I saw it the first time around. So I went back to basically after Mirko. I was so afraid for her. I'm like, she was so dead set on going after Shigaraki, and I know that she was not gonna kill Shigaraki. Okay, Shigaraki still has a lot of devastation to do. This was not gonna be his end. So excuse me. And then you see all those Nomos going after her, and everything. So I was like, so worried. I knew that Endeavor and Eraserhead and the others were trying to get to her and everything, but it felt like those Nomos were so strong and they were keeping them at bay. And then, even as she was running away from them, those Nomos were still after her. So I was afraid that she was gonna, in the process of her trying to stop Shigaraki, she was gonna die and everything. Thankfully, she did not. But then when Endeavor. When Endeavor got hold of her, and then she started speaking to everybody, telling them not to wake up Shigaraki. She first said that those capsules and everything were sort of like activation devices, and that when electricity went through them, that's how those normals got activated in the first place. And when she looked at Shigaraki, she was like, do not wake up that guy. When I first read that first time around, I'm like, how did you come up to that conclusion? And then I went back and saw it again, and then I'm like, oh yeah, when the doctor pressed the button, that's when the electricity went through the devices, and that's when the normals woke up and everything. So she's basically saying, don't let electricity, like, okay, I was also confused about why Eraserhead would and then break up the capsule that he was in and everything. I'm like, if Mirko is telling you not to wake him up, why are you breaking the pod that he's in? Won't that wake him up? That's what I was thinking when I saw it the first time around. And then I went back, and then I'm like, okay, he needs to be in the device inside the liquid, right? And then when the electricity goes through it, that's when he was gonna wake up. But then when when President Mike broke, because the doctor was about to press the button, to send the electricity to the thing and wake him up. But then President Mike broke the device, the liquid all sipped out and everything. So he was not able to wake him up in that particular moment. But then as President Mike was taking the doctor away, they started speaking basically about how he came to the point that he came, when he told people about the singularity theory and whatnot, and he lost everything. And then All For One, he approaches people when they're like on down and out, and then he uses his presence, his everything about him, I guess, to get these people on his side, and all of that. So he gave All For One his quirk. He kept a copy of his quirk, gave All For One the original one, I believe, and now All For One gave his original quirk to Shigaraki and kept a copy for himself. Which is why when Shigaraki was saying don't reject me or anything, and then I felt like him being in that capsule was sort of like he was gonna assimilate All For One's quirk while he was in there. And then when you see All For One sort of like looking like Urogiri, that was basically that's what I was thinking. That was basically the quirk, the original quirk, the manifestation of All For One's original quirk there, and he was making his way to him. And then I'm like, when he was saying don't reject me anymore or something, I'm like, okay, is he telling that to his family, or is he telling that to like the quirk, basically telling the quirk don't basically come over here, let us join together and become one person, don't reject me anymore. So that was where my mind was going, like those two scenarios. Him telling the don't reject me anymore was either toward his family, or it was toward basically the quirk, I guess. That's what I was thinking. But then the spark happened, and he woke up, and things are about to go from bad to worse. Yeah. And you see, what's his name? Gigantomachia also there, still holding on to the radio or whatnot. So now that Shigaraki is awake, he can just like give his command to Gigantomachia, and then disaster. What? I feel like I was talking about something and then I was somewhere else. Now going back to Hawks. When I saw the blood and stuff, like on the balcony last episode. I thought it was Hawk's blood, you know, but no, it was Twice's. And Dabby was angry. He was pissed, and Hawks was asking him, "Is that the face of someone that's sad that their comrade died and everything?" And then he said that his tear glands were like burnt off, so he can't really cry. When I first saw that, it was like okay, but then as I was rewatching it, and before they showed his face, not shedding any tears or anything, like his face was just sort of like smiling, like, and all of that. Before they even show that, when we hear his voice, Dabby basically telling Hawks that he can't believe that he killed him and all of that, you can hear the anguish in his voice, the anger, the anguish, all those feelings that you would feel when someone close to you is killed. I could feel that in his voice before they actually showed his face, which I'm like, oh, that's really good. Yeah, he can't express it on his face, but inside he was really upset. And he was basically confronting Hawks about what he did. And Hawks was like, I can't believe no. He was like, what did he say? Sorry people, I have a headache, so it's like I'm having a hard time thinking. Hawk said that he did his research on the league, but that him, like Dabi and Shigaraki, they were two people whose background he could not find. And he was also surprised as to how Dabi knew his real name and everything. And then they showed sort of like a flashback of Hawks when he was a little kid and being recruited to go through the special training and become a hero like Endeavor. You know how other people's hero that they aspire to be to is All Might, but in his case, the hero that he aspired to be was Endeavor. So he's like, okay, can I become someone like Endeavor if I go through this training? And then they're like, yeah, and then he was smiling. So clearly not a lot of people knew his original name. So the fact that Dabi knew who he was is like, how exactly? And then Dabi just told him straight out that instead of focusing on the league, instead of wanting to get rid of Shigaraki or the league or Twice or whatever, he should have been more focused on him, and that he was gonna be the one to carry on Stain's will. And then I'm like, I was trying to remember exactly how Dabi joined the League of Villains, because it felt as I was rewatching those scenes, I was like, it felt like many of these villains, like Dabi, the lizard guy, what's his name again? Spinner. Yeah, Spinner. Toga. Like they were all those three. I'm not quite sure about the others. I don't quite remember. But at least those three were spurred on by Stain, And then I'm like, okay, when we first met Shigaraki, did he have Dabi and the others with him, or was it after Stain did his thing and he was calling out those fake heroes and then he died? Was it after that Dabi and the others joined up with Shigaraki? I feel like it was after that, although I can't quite remember, which is why when I was rewatching these scenes with Dabi, then I'm like, oh, I think he joined after Stain. So if that's the thing, he during his dialogue in this episode, he was like he didn't care about the league, he didn't care about Shigaraki, and that his thing is carrying on Stan's will, which I know why he's he has that mentality. So Hawks asked him, okay, so who are you? And then he said it, but we didn't actually hear it. And then he's like, I don't care if you die. And then he was about to unleash his power. But then they cut away from there. So I'm like, either yes, Dabi killed him, or before we even saw Dabi and Hawks fighting, they started the episode with they started the episode with Tokoyami basically telling us about Hawk's quirks and everything, and then a scene between him and Hawks where he was asking Hawks, okay, what his greatest weaknesses and whatnot, and he's like fire, and then Tokoyami asked him, okay, so how do you counteract that? And then he's like basically get rid of the enemy before he starts using his fire and or something along those lines. So when he saw the blue fire, because you have Fat Gum, Fat Taxi, you have Fat Gum transporting the kids away from the battle, from the scene of the battle, because they did their thing. They have long range attacks, and they did their thing, and they're like, okay, we can't really have you use your attacks now that we are closing in on the villain, so he's gonna hurt us as well and everything. So he was basically transporting them away, and then they see the fire, and then he looked up and he's like, basically I think he's realizing that Hawks is facing someone with fire. So him knowing that, and then we go to Dabi and Hawks talking and everything, and then he's like, I'm about to kill you, and then they switch away from that scene, so we don't actually see him kill Hawks. So I'm thinking, with Tokoyami knowing what that fire signifies, who's to say that he doesn't show up there and saves Hawks? So nothing is, this particular episode doesn't tell me whether Hawks is alive or not. So yeah, so there's that. Is there anything else that happened this episode? That female Nomu that was just like analyzing Eraser Head's powers, just basically thinking, okay, because of him I can't really do this. Okay, how does his quirk work? Oh, he's hiding his eyes, so it must be his eyes, he must see me. And then she was just like analyzing everything. I'm like, these high-end Nomus have personalities, they can think for themselves and all of that, so they're gonna have a hard time dealing with these Nobles. And then you have Shigaraki waking up, and then you have Makia there as well, that's probably gonna be activated, so things are gonna go from bad to worse for the heroes. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and if you like this reaction, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and if you want to see my reaction to episode 5, you can just by checking out my Patreon at patreon.com/Felimini, and you can also see the full link for this reaction there as well. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye. You will swear I had a head that everyone who doubted me is asking for forgiveness. If you ain't been a part of it, at least you got to wait a minute.